Most of us often chase rather pumps than established memes. And a green candle is somehow spoiled for us until it's screenshot. We stare at charts, forgetting it changes nothing. We watch charts, but not ourselves. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing dopamine hits with actual profit, we are destroying our net worth. We are so tied up in FOMO and charts that we've lost all conviction. Time to wake up. What is alpha? Obviously, nobody can say, because it isn't just drawing lines on charts. It isn't rotation meta, that's just an idea. Alpha is the Giga cycle cannot be explained in words.
The Giga cycle cannot be explained in words. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode, another edition of Giga Mother Motion, focused on nootropics, or as I like to call them, brain steroids. Joined as always by my man, the dude, the bro of all bros, my bromosexual. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Crypto Mangione. Cryptic? Shit, I was doing good.
Nah, you do great. You say it wrong every time. I kind of like it. I don't like when you say it right. What's up, Shine?
What up, bro? How we doing, man?
Good. It dropped like, I don't know, 40 degrees here in the last day. So it's like literally 40 degrees out right now. So that's fun. Aside from that, doing great.
What's that in the rest of the world's metrics, bro, for all our European listeners?
Dude, what is that? If 0 is freezing, it's like what, 4 degrees?
4 degrees Celsius? God damn.
Yeah, the 0 degrees Celsius is freezing, which is 32. Yeah, it's cold. Very cold. Out of nowhere.
Well,
it was like 85 degrees 2 days ago.
If it makes you feel better, it is sunny and 28 degrees Celsius. Beautiful. That's like 90, like perfect weather here in Bali. So I feel your pain, bro.
So that's to 28 is all right. So then, yeah, that's pretty much what it was here 2 days ago.
Really?
Real quick. Yeah, real quick turnaround.
Gotta ask those Jays to stop manipulating your weather, my bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
There'll be more of those, baby.
Yeah, man, life's good on my end, bro. Had a great business meeting yesterday. Nice walk on the beach, going to a good acro jam today. The stream is cooking. You shared an interesting stat that most pods only last, 20 episodes?
Yep, 90% of them quit by 20 episodes.
And we're 12 deep.
Just getting started.
That was a question.
Just getting started.
95
funny,
Houston.
man.
Go to the comments. Oh, retweet. Thank you, Chosen One. Repost. Guys, repost the stream. Let's pump this in the algos. What's up, Tim? What's up, Jordan? 95 in Houston. Them thick boys in Houston. Thick boy.
Yeah, so Jordan gets it. He's on the East Coast.
What up, Blue? Giga Motion.
I feel like the chat is on the screen. I see it in the corner. Do you?
Yeah, I see it. We're good. We're good, bro.
All right.
I'm excited for this one, man. I'm really, this is, I can't believe we didn't think of this sooner, but this is probably one of the most exciting things we could talk about, man. So today's episode, we are focused on nootropics, or again, as I like to call them, brain steroids. And, you know, a little anecdotal experience. I've been using nootropics, also peptides, using nootropics for, I think I got into them in 2009 or 2010, starting with modafinil, which is a really interesting one we'll jump into later in the stream. So why don't we jump right into it, bro? You want me to start or do you want to start?
Yeah, definitely. This is for the listeners, this is Shiny's wheelhouse. If he thought peptides were
Yeah.
Nootropics, his research was awesome. He's been fired up to do this one. This will be cool, you guys. I'll shut the fuck up for most of this episode, which is a good change. So yeah, let's rock and roll.
Yeah, so starting off, like, what are nootropics, right? So nootropics are substances that enhance focus, memory, learning, creativity, clarity, while protecting the nervous system from overstimulation or damage. It's going to be a key difference we'll jump into in a second. They work by improving neurotransmitter balance, oxygen flow, and mitochondrial efficiency so the brain runs cleaner for longer. Key difference, they're not necessarily stimulants, although some are stimulants. They're more of optimization methods.
Yeah, I would say that was one interesting point in the research is some scientists classify caffeine as a nootropic, but others don't. So, and the main difference being that caffeine is a stimulant, and based on the traditional definition of a nootropic, it's not supposed to be a stimulant, right? It's kind of not supposed to have any type of what's the word? Agitating effects is what's that scientist's name who made these back in the 60s and 70s? The Romanian dude. What's his name?
I wrote down his name because it's so hard to say. So in the first nootropic, someone needs more nootropics. In 1964, there was a Romanian scientist, Dr. Corneliu, not to be confused with Cornelio, Georgia. He first synthesized piracetam. So piracetam was the world's first nootropic. He later coined the term, and we're going to hit you guys with some Latin like the big Hubes daddy. So nootropic comes from nous, which equals mind in Latin, tropos, to turn. So mind turn. And he coined that term to describe compounds that improve learning, protect neurons, and remain safe with long-term use.
Yeah, and his whole thing was he wanted to create something that was a cognitive enhancer with low toxicity and minimal side effects. That was the whole idea. And like you said, piracetam was the first one that they tested. And the only side effect to that one was like a queasy stomach. I think that was like his whole thing, why he was so quote unquote bullish on it, was it didn't have the stimulating effects like a caffeine would.
Yeah, and caffeine's great. I'm drinking yerba mate right now. Caffeine's great, right? But so often we tend to absolutely overdo the crap out of caffeine to the point where you're just getting diminished returns. So this isn't about not drinking coffee. Get your Giga Monster energy drinks and boof them if you need to. But this is about just figuring out other ways to also supplement that energy so you can still have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, love that. Another thing I wanted to say before we get into it is nootropics are great, but the best thing for sharpening your mind is working out and sleeping. There is no science that defends otherwise. You know what I'm saying? That is just what it is. Physical activity and sleep is the best way to keep your mind at performing at the highest levels. There's no nootropic peptide that could shortcut that. Jack-based MGR pretty much said the same thing, and I think that's true.
Boring. I want to sleep 1.5 hours and take Adderall and redline it, bro. Enough of this sleep. Enough of this proper foundations. Let's get crazy, man. So let's talk about when it blew up. By the late 2000s, Silicon Valley biohackers, Dave Asprey, most prominently, and Reddit nootropic communities were replacing coffee and Adderall with smarter chemistry. The Limitless movie, have you ever seen the Limitless movie? So they used to call modafinil the limitless drug, and that's kind of how I was introduced to it. I was at a fire dancing retreat, I think in 2010, and this guy had modafinil, and I was fresh out of circus school, and I was taking modafinil and just streamline exercising, doing flips, doing handstands for 12 to 14 hours straight. So what is this? He said, it's the limitless drug. So that was my first introduction into nootropics. Modafinil, again, we'll save that for a little later in the stream because it's such an awesome one. It's my favorite one. But that was my introduction. I said, holy crap, like, what is this stuff? I tried Ritalin and other things when I was younger, allegedly, but modafinil just hit differently. It didn't deplete my system in the same way. It wasn't such a drug stimulation feeling. It was more of just this really long lasting energy. And that piqued my interest. And then I started ordering, rest in peace, from this company, bro, called Powder City. It was just like some sketchy Chinese company called Powder City, which later got shut down for selling some weird shit that ended up killing. So I think it was Etazolam. It ended up, it was almost like a benzodiazepam derivative. It was like a research chemical version of Xanax, and some kid overdosed on this. So they ended up shutting down the whole site. But you could get whatever kind of nootrope you wanted absolutely dirt cheap. So around 2010, 2011, that's why I really started experimenting with creating my own stacks and exploring the deep, wide, and wonderful worlds of nootropics.
So I found modafinil. I graduated high school. I went to go visit my brother in the Air Force in Okinawa in Japan. And we get there and we go to the bar, and there's these like pilots there, and they're like popping these pills. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, modafinil. Like, we get prescriptions of these for when we go on long flights. And I was like, what is it? Like Ritalin? They're like, no, it's different. It's better. And I was like, oh, I had no idea what I was a kid. I had no idea what any of it was. But yeah, because apparently that's what they do. They give it to a lot of these pilots, fighter jet pilots, to keep them zoned in when they got to fly long distances or do some crazy shit. That's what they give them, is modafinil.
All right, I wanted to say modafinil a little bit later, but since we're already talking about it, so it was first created for narcolepsy, and it was adopted by military and executives. There used to be this thing in the business world where they call it M&Ms. It was melatonin and modafinil, and those were kind of like the key stacks for traveling executives and CEOs. So modafinil works in a way that it boosts dopamine, histamine, and orexin, and that extends wakefulness for up to 12 hours. That's the crazy thing about modafinil. You'll take it, and this is where there's a bit of kind of like hypocrisy between people that don't necessarily classify caffeine as a nootropic, but they classify modafinil as a nootropic. If you've ever taken modafinil for long periods of time without a break, which I did last bull run, I think I took it for 2 months straight, just redlining every single day. What you will find is because there is a dopamine effect on it, you're going to get decreased, diminished results, and also dopamine burnout. You will 100% get dopamine burnout. So if you're going to take something like modafinil 1 to 2 times a week, max, it's a great alternative party drug as well. If you're going out, you want to stay up late, but you don't want to feel like crap. Like, I personally can't take something like Adderal, which we'll get into in a second here. It just creates this kind of moreish, like, I just want more. I just want, like, I can't take with Adderall, because it is an amphetamine, dextroamphetamine. It's something I can't take. It just brings out that like hungry ghost in me where I want, like, if I had 20 Adderalls, I'm not going to take 1 Adderall for 20 days. I'm going to take 7 Adderalls for 3 days until I hate myself. With modafinil, I can have modafinil and I can still take it every single day. But there's no moreish. It doesn't have that same kind of addictive feeling where you want to take more. And that's because it interacts with your dopamine in a different way. And it's kind of interesting with modafinil because it's one of those things where they're like, yeah, we don't actually know fully how it works. Like, we know it affects your dopamine, but we're not really sure if your dick will fall off from taking it in 20 years. But have fun.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting too in the research. They have ideas, right? Like you said, dopamine does some type of acetylcholine uptake, but they're really not too sure. But I think that is the key difference between like a nootropic and a stimulant, right? Like, stimulants have that kind of crackhead effect after a while, where nootropics are not supposed to. You know, that they don't do that. They're way more gentle in that sense. And it's because it's not like firing your brain up like that. It's more just making it run efficiently. You know, that's like the big difference there.
I think with modafinil being one of the few exceptions to this list, phenibut as well, for different reasons. We'll get into that later in the stream. But modafinil that's kind of the strongest one. Thought we'd start the stream with a bang because this isn't something you can take and go to sleep a few hours later. Like you're gonna be wide awake. And I stopped taking it maybe half a year ago because it does interfere with my nervous system so much. Like if I take modafinil, there's no chill after. Like if I'm trying to meditate, if I'm trying to surf or something like that, it is this constant like again, not nearly as strong as something like Adderall or even a quad shot Americano, but long lasting. Like you're not taking a nap for 12 hours if you're taking that. Like it's going to elevate your nervous system significantly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So since we mentioned modafinil, which is a great alternative to Adderall, people might be wondering, is Adderall a nootropic? Technically, no, because again, Adderall is an amphetamine salt. It floods dopamine and norepinephrine, gives you temporary tunnel vision, but it burns out your receptors over time because it is so dopaminergic. It also raises cortisol, disrupts sleep, creates emotional flatness. Fast results, really, really fast results, but it's borrowed energy. And with that being said, though, there's a caveat here because I've taken Adderall I used to think ADD was complete BS. I don't think it's BS anymore. I just think it's incredibly overprescribed. So many people are like, I'm ADD. Some people are for sure, right? Some people just hate their job or kids don't want to focus in school or whatever it is. But there is a big difference. So I want to say there's no one size fits all. You might be watching this. Adderall might work amazing for you. Maybe it really does. Again, if you're going to take that because it is so dopaminergic, make sure you're supplementing with something like, L-tyrosine to replace the dopamine in your brain afterwards. Because I took this one time with my friend. I told my friend, I said, ADD's bullshit, bro. I took this with him at the same time. He was completely calm, focused, collected, helped him out a lot. I was running around the house cleaning, trying to call my mom up for, business pursuits. I'm like, Mom, did you ever think of a son and mother business? Like completely different. So again, there's no one size fits all. You might try modafinil, whatever it is. It might work amazing for you.
More confident there's a crash after modafinil.
There's a little bit of a crash for sure, which again, you can kind of offset. If you're taking something like modafinil, you can take something like L-tyrosine at night, L-tyrosine being the precursor to dopamine. You could also take things like GABA to help regulate your nervous system afterwards. So because these all work on the neurotransmitters, we're going to go over to some key neurotransmitters. So while you're following along, you can kind of understand what's happening. The first one, arguably one of the most important, is acetylcholine, which governs memory, focus, learning speed, basically links neurons into new circuits. And the nootropics that are going to trigger that, alpha GPC and racetams. Next up, we have dopamine. It drives motivation, reward, goal-seeking behavior. Yes, 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 closers get coffee. That's dopamine, baby. It's triggered by L-tyrosine, sulbutamine, and modafinil, Adderall, even caffeine. Next up, we got orexin. Orexin maintains wakefulness and metabolic drive. Again, modafinil is going to trigger that in a way that few nootropics don't. Also, interestingly enough, fasting and sunlight will naturally trigger that. Then we have serotonin, regulating mood and emotional balance. We can trigger that with Bacopa and 5-HTP. There's two more. GABA calms excess neural activity to keep focus smooth. You can trigger that with L-theanine, ashwagandha, and phenibut, which phenibutes. Have you tried phenibut, bro? Your bro.
No, I never tried that. What is it?
Oh, we are gonna get that's one of those Russian cosmonaut nootropics, man. We're gonna get into that later because that is one of the wildest, probably the wildest and most euphoric nootropic you could take. We'll do a full dive into phenibut a little bit later. And lastly, with the key neurotransmitters to know, we got histamine, keeps the cortex alive and alert, manages the sleep-wake cycle. And again, modafinil and movement are going to trigger that. And that's
most of the study,
neurotransmitters that we're going to focus on for this.
a lot of the research like came down to acetylcholine and like alpha GPC, because basically those are the things that keep our neurons firing, keep them growing. Like with the psychedelics episode, we talked about neuroplasticity. A lot of that has to do with acetylcholine. And yeah, I would say that a lot of this comes down to, so my whole thing with nootropics compared to stimulants is nootropics is about making your neurons stronger, react more efficiently, but it's about long-term sustainability. That's what makes nootropics so unique, is you are supposed to be able to take them forever and it continues to make your brain function more efficiently, as opposed to a stimulant where, like you said, it's this quick blast, but you're borrowing tomorrow's energy. You know, nootropics are not that. They're really quite the opposite. You're actually, it's almost like tuning up the engine. You know what I'm saying? You're just making it better. And that's why I've been taking, see, I take more of like the mushroom ones. I've been doing that for a while. But there is a ton of like clinical research on ashwagandha, even just like old school ones like ginkgo biloba, ginseng. Now, a lot of those just have to do with like blood flow, lowering oxidation state, lowering brain inflammation, you know, stuff like that. But they all work, and they're all pretty effective in that sense. You know what I'm saying? Like they will make your brain function at a higher level, in particular because we drink a lot of caffeine, and the problem with caffeine is it's a vasorestrictor too. Aside from the fact that it like, you know, aside from the fact that it like spikes cortisol and stuff too, it's also a vasorestrictor, right? Like reducing blood flows, making blood vessels smaller, and all that stuff matters. It matters for cognitive function. It matters for performance, right? That's why like amino acids like L-arginine are so prevalent in pre-workouts and stuff, because it's a vasodilator. So opens up your blood vessels, and that helps fight inflammation too, right? Because again, higher cortisol, higher inflammation. So a lot of these things are stuck, or a lot of these things are just about keeping the brain functioning more efficiently. You know, like tunes it up. It's not like changing out the engine or anything. It just makes it fire better.
Tim, help. All I want to do, all I want to do on Adderall is do on Adderall and smoke pack of cigs. Yeah, 100%, right? Because you're triggering dopamine and you just want more dopamine. And we're going to talk about nicotine as well, because nicotine is a nootropic, but it's very dose sensitive. And that's something we'll jump into here in a second. Corn pop, do you crash afterwards? Yeah, after modafinil, you do experience a bit of a crash. Nothing compared to Adderall or something like that. You can feel relatively fine the next day. Again, if you supplement with magnesium, L-theanine, GABA the night before you go to bed. If you take tyrosine 6 hours into your modafinil, that's going to help offset the crash as well. But yeah, you do experience a bit of a crash. And again, that's kind of some of the why is modafinil considered a nootropic when something like caffeine isn't. That's kind of a debate that's going on. So there are some fundamental foundational points that we can start with. You know, more vitamins that are going to help stimulate some of these neurotransmitters. And then we'll jump into some nootropics and then some very exotic. Here we are in the jungles of Giga motion, focused on discovering new and exotic nootropics. So kind of the entry point to start with is alpha GPC and choline. If you've heard of Onnit's Alpha Brain, that comes from alpha GPC. That's kind of the main starting point of any of these kind of chemical nootropic stacks. You're going to start with alpha GPC because, or just choline. It can be any kind of choline, but alpha GPC is the most bioavailable choline source. And your brain converts that directly into the neurotransmitter acetylcholine.
Yeah,
and that
one is the most effective because it crosses the brain-blood barrier the most
Yeah,
effectively. Yeah.
So alpha GPC is going to improve attention span, enhance muscle-mind connection for your gains, And it's also something we're going to use later to create racetam stacks, because things like piracetam, phenylpiracetam, Noopept, they work on your choline receptors. And by depleting that choline, you want something like alpha GPC to help replenish that. So we're going to talk about some supportive nutrients. We got magnesium threonate. It crosses the blood-brain barrier level, probably one of the most efficient ones to cross that BBB. Calms excitatory neurons. So that's a great one you can stack with caffeine, any of these more stimulating ones. We also have omega-3s. Those are going to help build flexible neuron membranes. We have B complexes synthesizing neurotransmitters. We have creatine buffering brain, ATP. We also have NAC, N-acetylcysteine, for antioxidation, plus dopamine protectors. And we have CoQ10 for mitochondrial enhancers.
Yeah, so a couple things. First off, anyone on the East Coast, I highly recommend you order some NAC going into this winter. That was something I found a couple years ago from a really sharp doc builder dude that was like 45. I think he was 30. And when I tell you I stopped getting sick in the winter taking NAC, it was pretty incredible. Stronger than any antioxidant I ever taken. And the second one is creatine. Creatine is an interesting one because it was always taken in these 5 gram doses, and it was predominantly for working out, right? That's always why people took it for muscle. Like you said, it attaches to ATP, gives you energy. From like a physique standpoint, it kind of adds water weight to your muscles, gives some volume to your muscles. But last year, a study in Japan, I believe, Dr. Rhonda Patrick kind of made it famous. What they did was it's just such a small study, so they have to do more of them. I think it was only like 12 people, right? But they sleep deprived them for 21 hours, and then they gave them up to 20 grams of creatine to see what it would do. And not only did it get rid of the lack of brain function from being tired, it like completely replenished it past baseline. And it was like a 3-week study. And I mean, it showed that you could take creatine as a nootropic, especially if you're sleep deprived, to get brain function fired back up. But again, that is a small study, right? And there's just not enough data there yet. But I think that's kind of why you see this huge resurgence in creatine as a nootropic right now. And then I watched a couple interviews with Dr. Ron Patrick today.
Was the study sponsored by a creatine company?
Yeah, right. Well, that's why it's like I have to caveat
Dr.
that.
Ron to have a creatine product?
Yeah, that's why I have to caveat that with it. There was only based on one real study that she kind of made famous. But anyone that knows anything about her, she's a very diligent, I don't know what you want to call her. I guess a doctor, but I don't know.
She's a scholar. She's a scientist.
Yeah.
She puts out good information, man.
So basically, she takes 10 grams a day. Like on a regular day, she takes 5 grams before a workout and then 5 grams after a workout. But if she's traveling, she will take 15 to 20 gram dose. Again, always in these 5 gram stages. And that's just because some people with creatine, with a lot of this stuff, in particular nootropics, actually, you will have like a kind of get an upset stomach. I'd say that's probably right. I would say upset stomach and a headache were the 2 biggest side effects from nootropics. So like there's some GI stuff there. So she doesn't do 15, 20 grams like that. But I just thought that was interesting. That's a newer angle on creatine.
What does she pace the dosing out? Like she does 5 grams an hour or something like that?
So with the work, like on a regular day, like I said, it's before her workout, after her workout. But when she's traveling, yeah, I think it's every hour, or it's over like a 3 to 4 hour span. 5 gram doses though.
Because you sent me that video, and now I've just been I thought you said 25 grams. So I've just been putting 25 grams in a cup. Shot. Yeah, with like a teaspoon of baking soda as a pre-workout.
That's awesome. Well, it all depends on your stomach, right? I think she's doing that to not upset her stomach. But if your stomach doesn't get upset, I don't think it matters that much. Yeah, I also watched Hop pour pre-workout in like a shot of water, so he gets it. Hop gets it. Yeah. So you've been doing it? I do it a couple times a week. Like when if my kids wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I get like 4 hours of sleep, I'll wake up and I'll put 4 scoops in a cup. But again, there's not enough data, right? Like there's just not enough data to say, we're going pretty much on just how it feels, anecdotal evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then there's a whole factor of like the placebo effect, right?
Mhm.
Like if you actually read this study and now you think that 20 grams is going to give you that boost, how much of it is actually psychosomatic, right? That's always
Yeah.
the question. I don't feel I feel a small difference from creatine. Maybe actually I feel a pretty good difference, but I haven't noticed a substantial difference between 5 grams of creatine and 20 grams. And that this is what makes this stuff so interesting. And this is what I love about this show, because the science is always changing, right? Like if you read something a couple years ago, even a year ago, sometimes, especially with nootropics, especially even more so with peptides, new studies are emerging all the time. Like traditionally, we thought that taking more than 5 grams per se, everything else was just going to get wasted. So this study is really interesting.
Yeah, it is. I'm curious to see how it plays out moving forward. It one thing about doing all this research is like whether it's psychedelics, whether it's peptides, even just minerals, you just always find that these weird things happen where like they don't get a bunch of like big studies, and like that's where my tinfoil hat goes on, and it's like, well, why is this? Like even something like nootropics. So there is overwhelming data that just these basic nootropics help with Alzheimer's because it all has to do with neuroplasticity, neurogeneration, right? Just helping your brain heal, like brain grow. It's like, well, if you could just take these supplements, right? Well, then they're going to lose all that money on Alzheimer's drugs, ADHD, same thing, man. There's a ton of studies that they use these nootropics with children to help them focus, and you just don't get those. You don't get those studies, man. You don't get those big ones. Ooh, nice reverse osmosis filter.
Make sure to remineralize that, bro.
Yeah, dude, Hop. I'll send you a link of a thing that you could, if your filter doesn't have it, that you could just throw in whatever glass jar you keep your water in to remit. You want to remineralize that water, man. But that's awesome. You just got yourself some clean water.
Okay, so let's jump back into it, man. Starting off with racetams. Again, piracetam being the first nootropic that was kind of synthesized or discovered in the 60s. So the definition of racetams, it's a class of synthetic compounds derived from piracetam, the OG, that enhance acetylcholine and glutamate signaling. And again, they don't spike stimulation, they increase efficiency between neurons, sharpening processing speed and recall. So in the racetam family, there's a bunch of them. We got piracetam, which is kind of the baseline granddaddy of them all. We have aniracetam, which is a derivative, right? Creativity plus mood elevation. AMPA receptor modulator that reduces anxiety and enhances associative thinking. We have oxiracetam for analytical precision. I'm like a kid in a candy store right now, bro. I love this stuff. It speeds up logical processing and spatial awareness, ideal for technical tasks. We have phenylpiracetam, which is one of the few I haven't tried, but I have it in my cart right now. So I'm really excited for this one. Mental plus physical drive adds a phenyl group, which makes it more efficiently crossing the blood-brain barrier level. It also increases dopamine and NMDA activity for alertness and stamina. We have pramiracetam. I've tried that one. Tunnel vision focus heightens acetylcholine receptor sensitivity for deep study sessions. We got Noopeps, which I just took some right here. It's either 100 or 1,000 times more potent than piracetam. You want to take it sublingually. It raises BDNF, brain-derived nootropic factor, and NGF, neural growth factor, promoting long-term memory formation and repair. And we have coluracetam, stress-resilient clarity. It enhances high-affinity choline uptake, improving focus under fatigue. And then last, there's probably some more, but this is kind of the basic like racetam. Dude, I love this stuff. We have fasiracetam, mood balanced cognition, normalizes GABA plus glutamate, for steady focus without anxiety.
It's like you need to offer cliff notes for this stream. Too much to take in. That's actually not a bad idea. That we should drop his notes somewhere for someone
Yeah.
like Corn Pop to take a look at it. That's a
Make
good point.
make a little video or something too. Do both. Make a thread. Yeah, this one, there's a lot. We usually go more in depth on stuff, but I just wanted to like spew out different because there's so many. There's like
Yeah, I didn't know anything about racetams until this week when I started studying. I literally didn't even know what they were. I didn't know they existed. Pretty interesting.
Well, and like you were saying before, bro, where in the West, they're not so widely known and prescribed. In Europe, they are. Like
Yeah.
in Europe, like you can buy paracetam. Doctors will prescribe you paracetam. Like that's something that's more wildly available in places like Russia. Russia is really on top of their nootropic game. These guys have been using this. Again, it's a little bit niche, but way more wildly known.
Yeah, it makes sense. I feel like this is right up their wheelhouse. That I could see that. These dudes are crazy mad scientists. Same with peptides, right? They were doing they do way more peptides over there than
Bro,
the
they were
West.
pumping Ivan Drago for Rocky with peptides, Nootropics. They've been doing that since the Soviet state-sponsored doping, bro. You think they weren't giving them peptides, nootropics, like absolutely everything? Of course they were. Of course they were. Which brings us to our next one, peptide nootropics, which Solank, calming alertness. Again, this is one of those Russian cosmonaut nootropics because when you send someone to space, you can't, there are obviously going to be high levels of anxiety. You know, obviously they screen people pretty diligently for this stuff, but still you're locked in this tiny area. You need to develop different compounds and different molecules that are going to provide an anti-anxiety effect without impairing cognition. So Solank and Semax are both Russian cosmonaut drugs. Solank is calm alertness. It's GABA and serotonin modulator that smooths anxiety and sharpens verbal flow. It's almost like a microdose of benzodiazepines with an increased kind of nootropic effect. I actually took some Solank and Semax in my stack before this show. So that brings us to Semax next, which is drive and memory, elevates BDNF, we hear that a lot, and dopamine, improved motivation and recall. Now we have two ones that I haven't tried. Dihexa, which is a neural growth agent. It encourages new synapses formation and potential long-term cognitive repair. Again, potential, because a lot of these are kind of new. They're kind of experimental. And then we have cerebral lysin. My friend just tried this one. I really want to try it. Apparently, it can create hair loss, though. He got a lot of hair loss. And it's actually created from pig brain. They like blend up. Yeah, it's created from pig brain, bro. And it's used in Europe for stroke and dementia. And it also can support full spectrum brain regeneration. A really interesting one.
These are used for like when I was doing the alpha, like looking into that alpha GPC, a lot of the studies were done on like stroke victims, Alzheimer's, because it helps like, yeah, just regenerate the brain. That's where they do a lot of studies. That was also one thing. A lot of studies on these nootropics showed that they have like profound effect on like elderly people to getting their brains like to help heal like a, you know, like I said, like an Alzheimer's patient or something like that. Kind of the studies got a little more fuzzy with healthy people, right? But they were, I mean, statistically significant when it came to helping like elderly people with Alzheimer's, like I said, stroke victims, to have them come back and regain like full mobility. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Corn Pop, I need to talk to my doctor to approve this stuff for me. See, that's the problem. You're going to have to find a really specialized niche doctor that's even willing, that's even open-minded to look into this stuff. I mean, doctors are obviously amazing. You get a brain infection, you get a broken bone, you want to see a doctor. You don't want to necessarily see a naturopath, right? We've all heard of someone dying from like they take you oil of oregano for like a blood infection. Like doctors are great for what they can do. The primary issue with doctors in a lot of cases is they spend, well, how long do they spend in medical school, man? Like 10 years? Or
Yeah.
like 12. So they spend all of this time in medical school, but they might have went to medical school 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
So good.
Like it's a lot of
Corn
this
Pop in
stuff
particular,
didn't exist,
he's got that
right?
ticker. Corn Pop's got that ticker, right? What's going on with Corn Pop? We got to make sure.
What is
We got to
it?
make sure. He, I mean, he's what, cancer survivor? What else? I think he had some heart problems. Might have just made that up. So yeah, always consult your doctor for sure. He's going to tell you no to all of this, but that's okay. Just tell him a really jacked guy. Tell him a really jacked guy told you about it.
Just say Dr. Shiny Huge prescribed it on a live stream on X. No, again, of course, not medical advice or anything. It's just the interesting thing. Like I remember my friend was prescribed Adderall and he went to his doctor saying, hey, the Adderall doesn't feel good. It's not working well for me. Can I try this thing called modafinil? Would you be able to prescribe that? And he said, well, I've never prescribed that. I don't really know what that is, but here's this other one that I've never prescribed anyone. Do you want to take that? So he prescribed him something like completely different. He had no knowledge about, because again, there was an incentive, right? There's certain drugs that doctors are allowed to push and financially incentivized to push, and there's different ones that don't have the same upside. And again, because doing these clinical studies can cost billions of dollars to put something on market. You have all of these incredible compounds that can heal people that are kind of just wrote off as pseudoscience.
Did you look into lion's mane at all?
That was the next section. Yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. There's data on that, and you keep hearing Sean talk about that BDNF, brain derived nootropic factor, right, and then NGF, which is nerve growth factor. So think about those as same thing. We talked about neuroplasticity last 2 weeks ago. That just helps your brain organize thoughts, reorganize thoughts. And lion manes through data prove that it stimulates nerve growth factor, so that NGF. So that helps repair neurons, stimulates neuron growth. I think it was blood oxygen flow too. What did you get on lion's mane?
Yeah, I believe there was a scientist that actually won a Nobel Prize. Fact check that on me, but I believe there's a scientist that won a Nobel Prize for being able to prove that lion's mane directly boosted and uptaked nerve growth factor. I always thought it was neural growth factor. Apparently it's nerve growth factor. So it stimulates, like you said, it stimulates neurogenesis. Basically, when you think about your BDNF being increased, it puts your brain in a state of hyperplasticity. And that's a state that just helps you. Like when a child is young, why can they learn things so quickly? Because their brain is in this enhanced state of neuroplasticity. So it literally grows new branches between neurons. So if you're someone that's abused a lot of drugs or alcohol, or if you're suffering things from Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever it is, basically the connections between your neurons get burnt out. And now we're finding there's this natural medicine, lion's mane, that can actually help repair and restore those burnt out connections between your receptors. I believe they're called dendrites.
Or spines, they call them. They stick out. That's like what touches each other. So you were right. 1986, an Italian, scientist won based on the groundbreaking discovery of NGF itself, and he used the lion's mane to prove it. That's pretty cool, dude.
Let's get ready to rumble!
It's hard fitting my big brain in this hat sometimes, bro.
Yeah, do you have any nootropics that make your head bigger? Asking for a friend.
Do you have any that will give me eyebrows? Also asking for a friend. So there's some more. Go ahead.
I take, so like I said, I like the mushroom ones. I also like them because there's a lot of like antioxidant properties. So this is host defense. This is can't see it because my light. Paul Stamets, yeah. So again, not saying to take it. This is just one that I take, and this is lion's mane, turmeric, reishi, ginger, some black pepper in there. Tastes terrible. I drink 2 cups of coffee a day. One of them I enjoy. That one I drink without that, and the second one I drink with that, and it tastes like shit. But any type of mushroom coffee I ever drank tasted like shit. Like I've drank that mud water one, same thing, tastes like shit. But they do feel better. There's no. I found them to work. They definitely give you a good, not a buzz, but yeah, just kind of dial you in a little bit. But yeah, I've been taking that one for a long time. Long time.
Yeah, and let's jump into some of the other ingredients you listed there, some other medicinal mushrooms as nootropics. So we have cordyceps, which elevates ATP output. It improves oxygen use and brain endurance for sustained focus. I also believe if you guys have ever seen on any of the nature documentaries, when the ants get their brains hijacked, have you seen that? There's a
Yeah, it takes it over.
There's a mushroom spore that directly buries into an ant's brain, creates a zombie ant, gets it to climb the highest point around, then explodes out of its head and shoots spores. That's a type of cordyceps as well.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's crazy. It just takes over their whole bodies, dude.
Yeah. So that's a type of cordyceps. We also have reishi, which is probably kind of like the OG main medicinal mushroom. Helps decrease and balance cortisol and also creates more GABA balance. GABA, again, being one of the most essential molecules for reducing stress and anxiety, promoting calm, and just creating centered attention. So reishi is huge in traditional Chinese medicine. Like a lot of this stuff sounds kind of niche to us, but then if you go into more Eastern medicine, which again, the fundamental difference between Eastern medicine and Western medicine is Eastern medicine is based off of just overall health and prevention. They implement these herbs daily, whether that's ginseng, whether that's reishi, and that's to prevent disease. Whereas Western medicine is much more focused on treatment. Now, I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on, but one is more profitable. I'll let you guess which one. So we also have chaga, and again, there's a bunch more. There's turkey tail. There's a bunch more, but we're just covering for the sake of how much information we're throwing out. We're just kind of covering the main ones. So we also have chaga, which chaga used to grow wild in Canada where I was. Like you could literally go and find it was this huge mushroom on a tree, and you could just wild collect chaga, and we would make tinctures of it. I don't know if you've ever made a tincture. It's really easy, man. You can just use either propylene glycol or you can just use alcohol.
Yeah.
So like we'd have friends that would make moonshine, and then we would just wild harvest chaga, and then you just put the raw plant in the alcohol, let it sit for a month, and you immediately have your own tincture. Really fun. So chaga, antioxidant powerhouse, and it helps shield neurons from oxidative aging and inflammation.
The mushrooms as nootropics, because you get like this really good like health defense, like this host defense factor to it too, like keeps you from getting sick. Like I really like the mushrooms as nootropics. You have far more experience with these more synthetic ones, which is cool, because I just learned about all that. It's kind of crazy how so much of this really just comes down to alpha GPC, choline, and reducing stress. What stress does to the brain is incredible, man. One, like we talked about it last week, when you are stressed, your body burns magnesium. You are probably deficient in magnesium already.
Statistically, you are.
Yeah, right. So like keeping yourself calm, being able to take things that keep your brain calm will keep your magnesium up, keep your cortisol down. Like it really is. So much of it comes down to being calm, being able to be calm. I was reading a study from a MIT scientist that was talking about that MT meditation. What does that stand for?
MT?
I want to say it was MT.
I don't think it's MT. I think you're thinking of TM.
TM, that's it.
Transcendental.
That's it. I'm sorry. You're right. How that's a nootropic. And he made it, I listened to a whole podcast, how he argued how that was a nootropic and explained why. And it was the same thing, how it was able to make your brain function better, keep cortisol down. So much of this stuff comes down to just being, being able to stay calm, not stressed, not oxidate your brain. All that stuff oxidizes your brain, which reduces oxygen, which reduces blood flow, which increases inflammation. Like it kind of just all starts with that, which really makes sense when you think of like these, like a lot of like the stoicism stuff. Like, what does it talk about? Like, don't let your emotions control you, right? And it made a lot of sense to me today when I was doing this research. Like, wow, so much of this really is about being able to stay calm, whether you take a supplement to do it, whether you do breath work, but those impacts on your brain are insane. Then you just think of like everyone today, right? Like being online, everyone just goes online to argue. Yeah, everything's an argument. It's like, dude, you guys are just frying your brains, man. Just frying your brains.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. Like things like breath work are definitely nootropics. Now, why are supplements more popular than something like breath work? Because people don't want to sit down for 10 minutes and put the work and energy in, right? But they don't mind taking 5 seconds and popping a pill right away.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
It's just kind of easier. It's like but some of the real magic in this, it goes into when you stack it. Like Alpha Brain, probably the most wildly known nootropic. Like the synergy becomes when you stack all these different things together. Like when you're taking a choline source and then you also add a racetam, but then you're adding things like vinpocetine and huperzine E and sulbutamine, and they all create kind of these like little synergistic effects off of each other. That's kind of like the magic of some of these synthetic nootropics, is when you start to create. And again, I used to experiment with I would just order 20 different things and just kind of mad scientist it and go, oh, this one works very well. Oh, this one made my dick fall off. Oh,
It was just caffeine, like coffee and theanine, because theanine helped, with the idea there, right? That theanine was kind of the other side of the coin. Caffeine jacks you up, theanine calms you down. That was like one of the first ones that they did actual studies on. So yeah, that makes sense how the stacking matters.
Well, and also like when you take theanine with caffeine, it calms your nervous system down, but it also does something. I don't know the science behind this, but it also slows down the way you process caffeine. So normally when you look at a chart of how caffeine kind of spikes, it looks like a meme coin chart. It goes, yeah, like that. But when you take it with theanine, it has kind of a more prolonged. That's why I drink yerba mate, because the same thing with yerba mate. Instead of getting this like quick up, quick down, it's more of a prolonged experience. And
yeah, because theanine boosts GABA, right? That's its main function. It boosts GABA and dopamine, I believe.
So it's an alpha wave inducer, and it produces that calm alertness, and yeah, synergizes perfectly with caffeine. I believe it has an effect on GABA, but don't quote me on it.
Pretty sure I have that in my notes, so that makes sense.
So that brings us into our next section, which is adaptogenic and herbal nootropics. And these are things that you find in Ayurvedic medicine. Bacopa is really famous in Ayurvedic medicine. Ginseng in traditional Chinese medicine. The first one, we'll start with this Bacopa. Serotonin plus BDNF booster enhances memory consolidation and reduces cortisol over weeks of use. And this is really cool. When you go to India, bro, there's this brand, it's Himalaya something. Like you can buy all of this stuff for next to nothing. Like you get a bottle of Bacopa for $4 or whatever. Like you can buy all of these herbs and they're just wildly available in all of the different pharmacies that you go to. It's just kind of ingrained in that culture. Next up, we have Rhodiola rosea, which is one I love. It actually only grows in Canada and it grows in Russia as well. And this is one I posted about a little while ago because it's used by the Russian Olympic team. And so when we talk about the phrase adaptogen, or like an adaptogenic herb. It's basically just helping your body, as the name implies, with adapting to different stress. So rhodiola is also a dopamine plus serotonin booster, and it increases stress tolerance and prevents mental fatigue. It also increases oxygen uptake pretty significantly, although the studies like wildly vary. Some people say, "Oh, it's up to 40%." I'm like, "Is it? Is it actually up to 40%, or are you just selling me your affiliate link in the next post of this thread?" Like,
Well,
so we also have ashwagandha, which is
yeah, a ton
another
of studies on that one, man.
jump into
That
it.
was another one I was surprised. Ton of data on ashwagandha. That's another reduced cortisol one, right?
Yeah, that's
Pretty sure.
another big one. And yeah, it's a cortisol regulator. And another big one in Ayurvedic medicine, one of the main ones in Ayurvedic medicine, promotes relaxation while preserving focus. It's a great one. You can take that any time of the day too. You can take that in the morning, kind of calm down your caffeine a little bit. You can also take it at night, and it'll promote and enhance sleep. We got Go To Cola, which will increase circulation, and BDNF, our favorite word on the stream, apparently. So it improves blood flow and neural rejuvenation. And
Took
then we
that a
have,
few years ago,
yeah, did you
beginning of
find it?
COVID. Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, I didn't. It's not enough data. I took it for like a month, so I feel like that's not enough data points to really, you know.
Yeah, and I think Go To Cola is one of those things you kind of have to take long term. And with a lot of these, like some people will call them snake oil and stuff, they're subtle. You got to think about this less like it's going to give you this immediate boost and you're going to feel it. And it's just a preventative thing that long term, you're kind of just investing a little bit of money in the bank, a little bit of money in the bank. Like we're looking, most of these adaptogenic herbs, this is more based off just kind of long term health and longevity than instant effects. If you want instant effects, you can take a nootropic stack. You want really instant, you can take something like modafinil. You want, instant for the next couple hours of focus, you can take that Solank and Semax, or you can take a different nootropic stack with alpha GPC, paracetam, etc. Adaptogenic herbs, they're subtle, man. Like if you ask me if I could actually feel like when I take reishi and cordyceps and stuff, not really. But do the studies imply that long-term use of them promotes longevity? Absolutely. So you kind of know the difference, because a lot of people will just write it off like, well, I don't feel shit from this. It doesn't work. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means you're not instantly seeing and feeling the results. Yeah, MCT oil is great. Comments.
Yeah.
What about MCT oil? It's great. Just don't overdo it. You will immediately shit your pants.
Everywhere. Absolutely.
Like you will shit. Absolutely. MCT is great though. There's a reason it got so popular with bulletproof coffee, right? It's not going to wreck your fasted state, and it's going to provide you instant energy. So that's why MCT oil is so commonly used with people.
But that's not one thing I would say is that's not a nootropic, because there is fatty acids like, I think it's like omega-3 fatty acids are considered a nootropic, while MCT oil, I believe, is like a 6 or 12 chain fatty acid, but they're both good for you for sure. MCT oil is good, man. That's a good one.
Great for energy. Like great for energy. Again, you just you will shit your pants.
Yeah.
And then we have ginseng, which is huge in Asian culture. In Chinese medicine, ginseng is, and that's the one really, right? It's a multi-neurotransmitter stimulator. It also raises dopamine, although, just kind of slightly. And it also raises acetylcholine. So clean, sustained energy. There's different types of ginseng, which we won't get into. Some are more stimulating, some are more sedating. We have L-theanine. We already went over that one. We got ginkgo biloba. So that is one that's commonly taken for increased kind of memory. And it's a vascular enhancer promoting blood flow within the brain, and it increases oxygen delivery as well.
This one is really more about being a vasodilator, increasing blood flow. But since it's like a plant, it has like two parts, right? So there's like the flavonoids, and those like that's kind of like the antioxidant part that like neutralizes free radicals. So that like reduces the oxidative stress. And then I forget what the other part is called. It's like touch the T, turpentine. And that's the one that's a vasodilator. But yeah, ginkgo biloba is another one. A ton of data on it, ton of research goes all the way back to like the 80s. I mean, it definitely works for sure. And that's another one that they were actually able to prove to show statistical significant data in healthy participants, which is rare. Again, a lot of these nootropics, when it comes to the data side of things, they show good results for elderly people, not so much for just regular healthy people, which I think is important to point out, you know. But again, are you taking this for preventative or, you know, because something happened?
Yeah, that's always the question, right? Like when I'm working with people, when I'm coaching people, they always ask like, what should I take? And it's like, well, what are your goals? Right? Like what's your lifestyle? What are your goals? What's the desired effect? Right? Those are always the questions you have to ask first. Because again, there's no one size fits all. You know, like why are you trying to take this? Increased energy, increased memory, stress, burnout, etc. Corn pop, where do you get your studies from? We just scour the internet, brother. We scour the internet and we try to find just the most reputable sources possible.
Yeah, I go on like PubMed. I go on like Scott, like real peer-reviewed data sites, like where they post like real medical research. That's kind of how I do it. I'm not a lot of this stuff. I don't talk about the study names. I can because it's just no one wants to hear it, you know. But if I do cite a study, I usually bring it up. Like that Rhonda Patrick one, I could go back and find it in my notes. I know it was a Japanese study and there was 12 people in it, and it was from 2024. So yeah, I go back and like actually read the research reports, peer-reviewed studies. A lot of it's cool now, you know, because you could use like a chat GPT or something to list them all, and then you could just click right through the links. But Hop's got a good question. Good ending question, I would say, whenever you're done. He said, which one of these would you put into Giga Gulp, which I'm thinking is some type of energy drink or a nootropic drink.
Yeah, again, it depends. Like, I guess we're going for energy.
I feel like energy drink would be different.
Yeah, I also like so I've never formulated an energy drink per se, so there would be some experimentation with just the way it tastes, right? Because obviously taste is going to be such a big factor. Like if I was creating a basic stack, I think I wrote down my basic stack here. My Giga stack, which would be alpha GPC, vinpocetine, huperzine A, aracetam, maybe something like Nupep. Again, this gets kind of tricky because you'd want to do Nupep sublingually. You also have to think, right? Like, how do you fit all of this stuff in? What's the taste going to be? Like, if you're, something like paracetam, you're taking 800 milligrams. You put 800 milligrams of something like paracetam in a drink, like that shit's going to be pretty nasty. Right. So, like, if you'd have to kind of experiment around with the flavoring as well, but obviously things like tyrosine, that's really popular in putting drinks because you're going to get that uptick of dopamine. You got to put L-theanine in just to relax the kind of jitters. But I would look for things that are highly bioavailable that you can put in smaller milligram doses and that don't taste horrible.
It's an Alpha Brain? Or is that a proprietary brand they don't tell you? Proprietary, right?
Alpha Brain?
Yeah.
No, Alpha Brain is basically it's like I look at Alpha Brain's pretty good. I'll pull it up. Like it's kind of like the gold standard. There are ways to improve it. I've kind of went over, but once you pay for your studies and everything and something works, like if it's not broke, don't fix it. I'll read you the Alpha Brain ingredients because it's alpha GPC is obviously like the first major ingredient. They also have the flow blend, which is tyrosine, L-theanine, oat straw, I can't say this word, but it's phosphatidylserine, which is another one I would put in that stack. Bacopa, again for memory, huperzine, one we talked about, vinpocetine, they have L-leucine. They have a bunch of stuff in it. Now, the one thing, obviously, Alpha Brain's the shit, the one thing I will say about Alpha Brain and any of these kind of proprietary blends is they put a lot of ingredients in them, but they're not dosed to the point where some of these ingredients are actually going to make a difference. That's the one big question you have to ask yourself when you're making a nootropic blend. Am I making something that's going to sell the best or going to work the best? Because the problem is people want to list a ton of different ingredients, but then to anyone who actually knows their shit like me, you see that there's just such a small amount of ingredients that it's not even doing anything anyway. Like, so that's always the balance, right? Like, am I making this for myself or am I making this to sell, right?
Well, it comes back to that recommended dose and then optimal dose, right? Like I even heard Peter Attia talking about magnesium today on a podcast because they were talking about nootropics, but then he was talking about magnesium, and he was saying like he takes like 2.5 times the recommended dose of magnesium.
Is that to fight the Antichrist? That guy's been wilding, bro.
No, Peter Attia, the doctor, not Peter Thiel. No.
Okay.
I don't listen to anything Peter Thiel says. No, Dr. Peter Attia, he's awesome.
Peter Thiel says people trying to stop AI are the Antichrist.
Well, make that one make sense. Jesus.
Well, good shit, man. I think I went over. I forgot. Saving one of the best for last today. Let me pull up my little master list here. Because there was just so much. There was no way I was gonna remember everything today. Phenibut, bro. Phenibut is one I want to talk about because if you want like instant, like holy shit, I feel this effects, Phenibut. So Phenibut is a central nervous system depressant. It's very pharmacologically similar to GHB, like really similar. It's basically like if you took GHB but made it a supplement for people that don't know GHB, gamma hydroxy butyrate, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Referred to as the date rate drug, which got some bad press. It got some bad press, but that used to be available in GNCs. You could just buy it. And the reason for that is it puts you in a super enhanced state of deep sleep. I actually allegedly tried this with a tracker. I would take different doses. Please don't clip this. I would take different doses and track my sleep. And you could see this. This is when it was legal. You could say giant upticks in the amount of deep sleep that you had. And if you listen to our sleep episode, you would know that when you're in deep sleep, that's where all of the repair, the recovery, the hormones are produced. So you would get these massive upticks in growth hormone. So because it's a central nervous system depressant, which is alcohol is also a central nervous system depressant, but it's non-toxic because it's endogenously created in the body. You get it from there's GHB in different foods, whether that's turkey, whatever it is. It makes you feel like you're drunk, but it's super euphoric. It runs out in an hour. They did studies where they would give someone G, and then 4 hours later, they'd give them a blood test and they wouldn't even be able to find it in their system because the body knows exactly. Similarly, something like testosterone, because it's endogenously created, the body knows exactly what it is. So it can metabolize it clean, so there's no toxicity. Phenibut is very pharmacologically similar to GHB. And it's, again, one of those Russian, if Russian astronauts are taking it, you want to check it out, bro. So it was developed in the 1960s, Russia, for the cosmonauts, as they call it. It targets your GABA B receptors while mildly increasing dopamine, and it improves this calm, kind of confident, smoother speech, reduce social anxiety. Amazing to stack with things like modafinil or caffeine. Typical dose around 500 milligrams. And this is one you do not want to overdo. It has a very long half-life. It feels really good, and it's really easy to overdo it. Have I? Yes, I have completely overdone it because it stays in your system for a long time. I think I took it for 3 days. I took 1 day off, and then I did it for another 2 or 3 days, and my body didn't know that I took 1 day off. I had the craziest insomnia, bro. Like I could not sleep. So I had to increase it because there's going to be people watching this that go like, well, I don't want to take this stupid plant that I don't feel for 3 months, right? If you want to take something that's going to hit you heavy, like, holy shit, I can feel this. I feel amazing. You can check out something like Phenibut. Just please. You can get addicted to this. You will gain a tolerance for this. If you take too much of it, because it is a GABA B antagonist, you're going to feel like shit the next day. But if you're someone that can moderate things and use things like in a healthy way, check out Phenibut, because man, it feels it. Take 500. If you don't drink and you're looking for something, go to a party, take 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams of Phenibut, leave the bottle at home, lock it up, and you will feel good. And it is one that you can stack. You can put that in your energy drink, bro. It is one that you can stack with things like caffeine or stimulants, and man, you're the sex on it, bro. The sex on Phenibut is like unbelievable, bro. So Phenibut's like, if there's two I'd recommend for the people out there that are like, I don't care about this holistic health bullshit, I want to feel this now, I want to feel something, those nootropics, that would be modafinil and Phenibut. You are going to feel something. Those are like the powerhouse kind of steroids of this nootropic section.
But modafinil for sure. That's so funny.
Bro, have you tried Phenibut?
No, can't say I have.
Wild, bro. So you can get, I believe Phenibut's legal in every country still, I'm pretty sure. If they made it illegal, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's a pretty strong like drug. Like, I believe in legalization of all things, but if they made that one illegal, I'd go, that makes sense. That could be dangerous. Like, Phenibut is something like, and do not mix it with alcohol, guys. Like, absolutely do not mix it with alcohol. Have I? Yes. Should you? Absolutely not. You should not, because it is really, really strong, and it can be actually deadly if you took too much. If you took a couple. Again, recommended dose 250 to 500 milligrams. Always start with a lower dose. You can always take more. You can never take less. Start with a small amount. Be responsible if you're going to take this. But if you're looking like to up your sex, up whatever, bro, like Phenibut, it's like Phenibut's awesome. It's fucking awesome, bro. You want like a clean nootropic party stack? Man, take some modafinil. Take some Phenibut, you'll be raving for 12 hours. You'll feel fucking incredible. You should be able to get that on Amazon. Oh, one last one I wanted to go over too, bro. Nicotine. I don't think any nootropic stream would be complete without talking about the good and the bad side of nicotine. You want to jump into that, or you want me to handle it? As I put my pouch back in my mouth. Guys, please be careful with Phenibut. Okay, it's fucking amazing. It's too amazing. If you like stuff a lot, like I do, like just be careful. It's a powerful one, but god damn, it feels good. Great alcohol replacer, like fantastic. Like, because I don't drink. I don't. Don't look at me like that. I don't. Like, I don't.
But yeah, go over nicotine. That's a good one, because that one is definitely a nootropic for sure, 100%.
So I don't know if it's like Big Zin or anything. Can you?
Dude, they want you to write the name in the comment. Dude,
well,
you're gonna fucking kill it.
I can't write on the comments in StreamYard. Here, I'll do a banner. Let me do a quick little banner. I can do a scrolling banner here. Here you go.
Corn Pop helped you out. Yeah, that's it.
There's a scrolling banner. Yeah, be careful, man. If you're someone who likes things a lot, please, I'm telling you, this one is like, please don't have sex on it, because it's like, bro. So nicotine, I don't know, like I think there's been a complete psyop. I take nicotine. I'm taking like 12 milligram pouches right now. So I'm not
12, you savage. Yes.
what?
That's what's up. It's a heavy
Bro.
pouch, dog.
I started out with 2. Well, that's the thing with nicotine, right? It's like you started out and you take 2 milligrams and you're like, holy shit, this is crazy. I don't think I can handle this. I don't even like this. And then you like take it again. And you're like, okay, it gets nicotine's one of those weird ones because you can take it and like not even like it. Nicotine is the most addictive substance that I've ever taken. And I've taken a lot, allegedly, recorded stream. It's the most addictive molecule I think there is by far. And there's a lot of studies that suggest this as well. Actually, the way I got addicted to nicotine was have you ever read Aubrey Marcus's like Own the Day book?
What you're talking about.
Yeah, so Aubrey Marcus, owner of Onnit, good little callback. He created, or founder of Onnit, co-owner with Rogan. He created a book called Own the Day, which it's a great book. You can check it out. And it's just basically his perfect day for optimization. And basically, if you can have one of these perfect days, you can make everything. So he goes from when he wakes up to go to sleep and just complete optimization. And one of the nootropics he talks about in this is nicotine. And Aubrey has done a lot of ayahuasca and stuff. So he's like an ascended being. So he's someone who can use nicotine and be like, I will take this one day and then I will not take it because that would be irresponsible and I'd get addicted. I'm like, I can do that as well. I can absolutely. So I was like, well, if Aubrey's taking it, you got to model your mentors, right? I immediately got addicted to nicotine when I tried. Like this is awesome. I want to take this every single day. So please know, I'm definitely absolutely fentanyl. I'm absolutely, that was the comments. I'm absolutely not suggesting to take nicotine if you're not already taking it, because there is a high probability that you will get addicted to it. And it stimulates nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, releasing increased amounts of acetylcholine and dopamine and norepinephrine, which are all things that you could release organically in a nice cold plunge. But if you're going to microdose it, 0.5 to 2 milligrams in a gum or a lozenge. Okay. And so here's where people go, well, I take nicotine. It's a nootropic, blah, blah, blah. And again, I'm not poo-pooing it. I take a shitload of nicotine, as you can tell from my 12 milligram fucking pouches, right? The problem is, all these studies people are showing you about how it's a neuroprotector and like all this stuff, it's good for your brain. That's in 2 milligrams a
2
day.
milligrams.
That's
From
it.
0.5 to 2 milligrams. Yeah.
Not more. Not more. So people are like, well, I could take dude, I have a friend at the gym, fucking ex-Turkish special forces, awesome guy. I'll try to get him on the stream. He was like a Turkish national champion track and field, ex-special forces guy, cool as shit. He was saying in Turkey, he was taking 150 milligram pouches. 150 milligrams.
Dude, I would
bro.
shit and puke at the same time if I did that.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
But they've proven that nicotine at 1 milligram dose boosts short-term memory. That there's like data on that. Yeah.
Well, there's a reason people like it. Like, it's awesome. People don't take these things and get hooked on them because they don't have a desired effect. Like, they're awesome. Like, nicotine locks you the fuck in. It makes you focus. Why do you think so many writers are chain smokers? Like, when I was living in Tulum, I was hosting 2 comedy shows. I was hosting my own comedy show, an open mic, and the Tulum Crypto Club. And those 2 days, I would smoke cigarettes and I would vape. Why? Because they would lock me the fuck in. It was better for writing jokes. There's a reason, like, all of these writers are taking nicotine. There's a reason people vape. There's always a reason people do these things. The problem is, you know, it's spouted like Big Zin got their hands on everything and they're like, it's super healthy for you. It's healthy in 2 milligrams. I guarantee you, man, if you go down this pathway, you're going to be taking these fucking 12 milligrams in no time. And then there can be a plethora of downside effects, right? Like fatigue, dependence, because you're depleting all of these neurotransmitters. Anything that goes up, must come down, right? So you're going to deplete your dopamine. You're going to deplete your acetylcholine. It's also a vasoconstrictor. And from an athletic performance, because it's a vasoconstrictor, it reduces your body's ability to uptake oxygen. And it can also significantly increase not only heart rate, but your blood pressure as well. So please, if you're going to use something like, I would not recommend to anyone, like, try Phenibut if you want. It's awesome. Please don't overdo it. But something like nicotine, it's really, really fucking addicting.
Yeah, being a restrictor, I didn't realize how much that has effect cognitively until this week.
Oh yeah,
huge deal. I didn't
There's a
realize that.
reason
I
people
thought it
love
was
it,
just
bro.
big caffeine as a vasorestrictor has not just effects on your physical output, but your mental output, man. That's a real thing. I didn't know that. I thought that just pertained to your body, like working out. But no, it's your brain too, man. That's a real thing. That was kind
When
of crazy.
people create that kind of habit stack between the two as well, right? Because caffeine and nicotine are synergistic. Once you start one, as soon as you take one, you want the other one. Why? Because like these other stacks, they're completely synergistic.
I mean, coffee and a cigarette, dude. I've seen when I was at work, that was all they would do.
Exactly, bro.
That was most people's breakfasts.
That's like, I don't drink or smoke, but if I drink some alcohol, which is very rare, I think the last time I drank was 1 year ago after I won my fight, a little celebration. But as soon as I drink, man, I just want to vape. I want to smoke. I just fucking go for it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's
Just go off the rails, bro.
damn. All right, this was a good one, Shine.
Yeah, it was fun, man.
You just got everyone addicted to Phenibut.
Guys,
Right.
please be cool. Please be cool, guys. There's gonna be people in the chat of like, dude, I took this for a week straight. Why didn't you tell me not to? I did. If you take it for a week straight and you can't fucking sleep, that's on you, bro. Don't do that.
Don't do that. You heard the man.
Please don't do that.
Awesome. Dude,
Take
so next
500 to 1,000. What I do, not recommendation. We should end this.
Yeah, we'll end this. Next week, we have on Giga community member just did the bodybuilding competition. He's going to come on and talk about Cali. I wanted to say his name. He's going to come on next week and tell us about that whole journey. I'm super pumped about that. It's going to be a good one. Yeah, that's exciting.
This was fun, man. This is a fun one. So what's a brief summary? Give him a brief summary, man.
No.
No.
I don't even know so much. I don't even know. We just went over so many things I know. Nootropics are good for your brain. I would say Alpha GPC is a great one to start with. If I was going to take just one, I would take that one because that's directly tied to choline, which is a building block of acetylcholine, which turns out to be one of the most important things to help build neuroplasticity and neurogeneration. So I would say if you were going to pick just a supplement to pick, I would choose that one. If not, you could go with any of these mushroom blend nootropics. I think those have good synergistic effects in terms of being a nootropic and, like an immune system booster. But they definitely work. These are not stimulants, right? I think that's important. These are not stimulants. And most important, these will help, but nothing will help better than doing physical activity and fucking
Boring.
sleep. Keep saying this.
I'll take that one step further. I'll say if you're going to start a good introduction stack, alpha GPC and a paracetam or a racetam. It can be paracetam or it could be Noopept. If you're taking Noopept, sublingual dose, very small amount, 5 to 10 micrograms. That's a really good starter stack. And if you want the heavy shit, you can try modafinil, you can try Phenibut. And if you want the long, bro, I'm gonna order some Phenibut right now, bro. If I don't make it next stream, you'll know where I am. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This was a really fun one. As you can tell, I fucking love nootropics. Any way we can optimize our bodies, our brains, our systems. That's Giga Motion, motherfuckers. We love you guys so much. We'll see you
Okay,
next week.
guys.
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Most of us often chase rather pumps than established memes. And a green candle is somehow spoiled for us until it's screenshot. We stare at charts, forgetting it changes nothing. We watch charts, but not ourselves. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing dopamine hits with actual profit, we are destroying our net worth. We are so tied up in FOMO and charts that we've lost all conviction. Time to wake up. What is alpha? Obviously, nobody can say, because it isn't just drawing lines on charts. It isn't rotation meta, that's just an idea. Alpha is the Giga cycle cannot be explained in words.